I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
What's up, guys? Hey, welcome to
everybody.
the welcome to the Platt Against America after show. I'm so excited. I have a very good crew with us. But first, obviously, you guys are seeing us in a different format. You're seeing us via webcam for obvious reasons. We're all doing our best to practice social distancing, as we call it. But we still think of this as a great opportunity. You guys are with your family, your friends. You're watching a lot of content, and we still want to work hard for you guys and make sure that we're providing good content. And this show that we're doing is it's a good one. It's a heavy one. It's a dense one. And I have a really fire crew, a really smart crew. And we're going to get through kind of breaking down episode 1. Again, we're interviewing Plot Against, we're reviewing Plot Against America. The mini-series is titled Part 1. But first, before we get into all that, let me just introduce everybody. We got Kittie KaBoom, my DC fam. She's done, what's up? She has done the Golden Globes after show, a long list of other things as well, but that one's kind of cool, so I had to put that out there. We got Cody Epperson, who's done a Fresh Start after show. And then we got Ricky V, who's done most recently the Circle after show. We just got some after show vets, and we're going to need some vets on this show because we got a lot of content to handle. And I love this show. I've done a lot of alternate universe, alternate America type things. I did Man on the High Castle by Philip Roth, also called Plot Against America. Basically, the idea is that the president, FDR, doesn't win again. He loses to Charles Lindbergh, who is in this era is a big time celebrity. Think of I'm trying to think of a comparison. The Rock, or people who are just beloved and but he just so happens to also have Nazi ties in an era where Hitler is doing his thing in Germany. So it's think about The Rock running for president and we love him, but then also he has some Trump Made Against America aspect to him. That's who Charles Lindbergh is. And they didn't really get into that, but that is kind of the overall theme of what's happened in the show. But just first of all, guys, this concept is so interesting. What about it kind of drew you in to want to even do this after the show?
Well, I was I watched the trailer for it and I found it really interesting. I'm not too good with history. I thought this was I figured it's HBO, so it's going to be amazing production value. And 2, I'm going to be
the trailer. It was really intriguing, and unfortunately, I'm not the biggest history buff either, and I'm not proud of that. So I was like, well, great. I'll hopefully, just as you said, get entertained while learning something as well. And I know that once I get on board, I'll be more interested to dig deeper and find out more about it. So I'll be able to really contribute in such a way that I have some knowledge and can also see the value in the acting and the writing and all the stuff that we look for in production.
To be honest with you, the trailer and the music got me. At least it caught my attention and it kept me in.
Yeah.
And then as the trailer was going on, I saw, wow, this is a pretty heavy piece in life. And
yeah.
I have a Jewish aunt, and her mother was a survivor of the Holocaust. So it just really kind of, I'm not Jewish, but I have an aunt that is, so kind of hit home.
Yeah.
And I was just more interested in actually learning more about, this time period.
I love that because we're going to have an audience that I think for the most part isn't going to really know that this was a book or what the concept is based on. And the trailer did pull you in, right? It was just so cool.
Yeah.
It was wow, this story is just compelling. What the heck am I watching? I don't know. We're going to find out together. So this is kind of like a show that is immersing you in the 1940s. Did you guys feel like you were really in that era? Did you feel detached? How do you feel like they captured being in that era of time?
Well, I definitely
the
did.
Good news
For
is
sure
it's
captured
HBO.
it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, because it's HBO, you already know they have a huge budget. So I thought that was pretty cool. The scene where they're out on the street and literally in the first scene, they're just walking across the street. All I could think of was number signs. God, how much did it cost for the costumes and the cars and the sets and the, just literally blocking off an entire town or building an entire town replica of that time is just, that is Bitcoin. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's going to be very thorough and super like on point through and through, because not only do they have the budget, but I just see HBO as being like top tier of production value. So whoever is directing it, I'm sure like made sure that everything like down to the cutlery was authentic. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. The continuity is on point. It's visually very capturing. Even when they're in the school and they're doing the Pledge of Allegiance, they don't say "under God," which I didn't realize this isn't added in until a few years later, like another decade or so later. So they got their facts straight, and their stuff is on point.
I think the thing that captured me the most was just, I'm like, this feels like a different era. The fact that they were even outside talking after listening to a radio thing, like I was just like, yeah, this is definitely not now. So shout out to the team. Like I think they got some of those small details really well. But we got a lot of characters that we got introduced to, a lot. I'm gonna try to kind of piece it together with you guys. But we were kind of introduced to this Jewish family led by Herman Levin, who's the father. We have Evelyn Finklin. She is Elizabeth Levin. She's the mom. And then they have two sons, and they're kind of like in transition. It feels like he's doing pretty well career-wise, et cetera, et cetera. But then they also, like Jewish family, right? Very collectivistic, very like involving with all aspects. They have a cousin who is kind of like on the brink of things. I don't know. He had it was a high tension relationship with the father, right? How did you guys feel about just the dynamic there? Do you feel like the father was being unfair to the cousin, not understanding?
No way. No way. I think the father had every, me being from New York, I get
we
the
hear
mentality. Yeah. I get the mentality that like when you take someone underneath your roof and you provide that person with a home and food and shelter and like all these other things, and then you're, I guess, the owner of the gas station seemed to be a close friend of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So like when he's telling you that like he robbed me, it's kind of like, what is this kid doing? Like I provided him with all of these things. All he has to do is just be good. He just has to stay out of trouble while he's living underneath my roof, and he can't even go to do that. So an Italian guy, a Jewish guy, it's kind of the in New York, it's kind of like the same thing. Like we kind of have the same type of morals. It's like when we give you stuff, don't backstab us, and that's what I feel like the father felt.
I do too, and I think you're absolutely right. And I know how the New Yorkers live. I know how you guys get down. Your code of ethics is unparalleled there, baby. Unparalleled. No question. But at the same time, it is fair to give people the benefit of the doubt. I can appreciate that another adult told another adult, this is how it's going down. And because you're family, I'm not going to make it an issue. I'm not going to take it to the police. But 2020 parenting, I would at least ask my son, you want to give me your side of the story? You want to talk to me about what went down? What I decide to believe and how I decide to move forward, obviously, ultimately falls on me. But I'm going to at least be like, son, what's going on? Like, why is this man saying you stole?
Yeah.
I know you. I don't believe that you're capable of this. So talk to me. Like, what are we about to do?
There's always three sides of the story: mine, yours, and the truth.
And the truth. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you. You know what? I think I have a lot of empathy for Alvin, who's the cousin, because he was covering for his friend, who's like obviously a horrible influence on his life. But I just think it's something very honorable about that, taking the L
As do I.
taking the rap. And I wonder if the father, especially since he apologized to his sons after, I wonder if the father would have handled it differently if he knew that information.
What do you think?
He would have been like, "You idiot! What are you doing taking the raps for someone else? He ain't your real friend."
Exactly. If he was your real friend, he wouldn't have taken you down this road right here. I get you a great job, and you're listening to this knucklehead. What are you doing?
What's the matter with you?
I love
What's the matter with you? Hit you upside the head, right?
Yeah,
absolutely right. Absolutely.
So I want to stay with the father too because he had a lot of big decisions to do just in this first episode. He was thinking about moving them to another neighborhood where they would have been the only Jewish family, and it was revealed that he decided to not do that. Um, how did you guys feel about that whole dynamic, the conversation that was had, like everything there? Do you feel like it was the right decision, all those type of variables?
It seemed like he made the decision that was, I guess, best for his family and their safety.
Yeah.
I'm still very curious about what it seems like his wife is who convinced him to not take the promotion.
Right.
But I'm also very curious about what actually took place in that meeting because we didn't see what or hear what was actually said when he spoke to the manager. So I'm very curious about the other end of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be curious about that too. And obviously, I can only speak from my personal experience. I've never been put in a situation like living in a quote unquote gentrified neighborhood is not the same as the other way around.
Yeah.
If it's a predominantly Black neighborhood and white people move in, then obviously they're the minority and it's about like them getting acclimated to us, which that's the issue. It doesn't work that way, but that's a different rabbit hole. I'm just saying, like, for this situation, I don't know if I was the only Black person in a white neighborhood. I don't think I would. Well, in today's day and age, it's so different. You know what I mean? Back then, I would have been terrified. Like I probably
Yeah.
wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
For the sake of my family, just like them. So I think he made a good move to stay put. But you want to be pioneers, right? Like you want to be the person that says, I was the first to do it. I wasn't afraid. I stay claim to this because I can afford it. And I should be able to move wherever I want. And my kids should be able to go to better schools if that's what this neighborhood provides. But oftentimes being the first means that your house is burned down or your kids are bullied at school. So I don't know. It's a hard stance to take. Not everybody's brave enough or willing to take, to stand in that truth.
Can you repeat that question again, please?
Sure. I think
I want to make sure.
understood. Yeah. Herman basically made the decision to not move
Right.
to that neighborhood that would have involved him getting more money. They would have had more space, and it was his wife is part of what convinced him. Did you agree with the decision? Like, how did you even feel about that whole situation?
I mean, that's tough. That's a tough question to answer, especially since I'm not a father or I'm not a husband of yet. It's difficult for me to put myself into their shoes because it's like if I genuinely surveillance the area and saw that home and was in the neighborhood, if I felt like the neighborhood was not safe for my kids and for my family, I would not do it. I'm the type of person that is not going to allow anyone to influence what I do in my life and how I feel. So if it was honestly the only reasons I wouldn't have done it is if I genuinely saw and felt like the neighborhood was not safe for my family to live in. His decisions, I'm assuming it had something to do with that as well. So I think a husband has to do what they have to do to protect their family, and that's just what he was doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. I think it's just so many. I so early on in this episode because in the show because there's so many questions with all of these new characters we have because we even got introduced to Evelyn Finkel, who's the aunt of the family. She's the one taking care of the mom, and she's like in this affair relationship. But it's kind of an insight into just that pressure in that era. You like if you're not as a woman, this may be presumptuous, but as a woman, her not being in a relationship and the other economical like things that she doesn't have access to yet, like how does she maneuver in that field and in that world? Did you guys feel like just seeing that she was in a relationship with a man that was in an affair and like how she handled that whole situation? Did you guys feel empathy for her? Were you like kind of like where were you towards her?
Not
I
at
felt
all.
no empathy at all. She got herself
Why?
into that. What do you mean? Why?
None?
The guy's married. Like, what do you mean? This no. I felt abs. I was like, girl, you got yourself in this mess. This is the cards that you dealt yourself, actually. and you have to deal with it now. Like, he doesn't like, unless he's actually divorced, you can't be like in
I
this
feel
like
you, bro.
fairy tale, like, oh, he's gonna get a divorce and we're gonna be together and everything's gonna be peachy keen, which is probably like the phrase that they used back in the 1940s. You know, it's I just don't think, I think she set herself up.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's what we do sometimes, and not making excuses for
No.
her or anybody, because men do it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, we're more inclined to do it, unfortunately, because we get strung along in a different kind of way. But you remember when she told her sister as validation, like, listen, they were going to get a divorce a long time before I came along, and the divorce is happening. So maybe he told her something that wasn't actually true, and now she's seeing it play out as what is real. You know, like maybe he
Right.
fed her this fantasy and made her believe that it's happening until he got what he wanted repeatedly, clearly. And then, I mean, because they had, I mean, they was just finished before homeboy was up and out the door. Like, check this out. I gotta go to dinner. Like, that was cute and all,
Exactly.
but right, I'm out of here.
Exactly.
So he must have been betting her what she wanted to hear, which was that the divorce was imminent and that it was happening and the paperwork had already begun before they started their affair. And that just kept her around long enough to, you know, get in and get out, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree with both of you. I agree with all of you. It's like she totally set herself up for this. So it's like, yo, like, you dug your grave, but like, I feel bad. Like, she's clearly hurt. Like, she was like, this took her by unfortunately, sadly, it took her by surprise. But like, it's like a little bit of, it's both. It's like, you did this to yourself, but I feel.
How do you feel bad for her?
She doesn't want to be an old maid. She's just trying to find someone. She doesn't want to be alone.
Hard out here for these women, bruh.
Yeah,
Give them a little something. Desperate times call for desperate measures.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Desperate times cause for desperate measures, cause for desperate situations.
Yeah. You know what? I don't find myself usually being supportive of a homewrecker, but I'm kind of like really rooting for her, just because of the dynamics of everything that's happened in her family. I feel like she's gonna be all of these characters are gonna be important, but I think she's gonna be a very important character going forward. We have a couple of characters.
Casting kind of tells us that too. I mean, it's up that way, but I mean, it is Winona Ryder, so she's probably going to be a big deal.
I may have took a little walk down IMDb and saw him in the episode.
Just a little bit.
But I wanted to say, before we even get on a little bit more with some of the other questions I want to ask you guys, we have a news segment. All right. And Cody is going to be spearheading that.
Heck yeah. So, I know what I was kind of like. So I was kind of saying, like, I'm not a big history person. Like, I'm not too familiar with everything that goes on this time. And like, there's so many specific triggering moments in history. But one thing I was trying to find stuff that was like interesting, but also like informative, like it kind of helps inform. And this article I found from the New Republic, it says HBO's new 6-part miniseries, The Plot Against America, is based on 2004 Philip Roth novel of the same name, but it carries conscious echoes of the late 2016 moment. This has been made explicit by showrunner David Simon, best known for The Wire, and who began the project in 2018 with Roth's blessing in the final month before his death. And quote, "This is all allegorical to this moment," Simon told Variety recently. "It's not Lindbergh now, it's Donald Trump. And it's not Jews who are the most vulnerable cohorts among recent immigrant groups. It's people with black and brown skin, people who are Muslims." And it's just showing that like I guess like kind of how history repeats itself. We're in like our current situation it's kind of weird thing how he's like The Rock, like he's this big person, like, in the show that people want to be president because they idolize him, and it's kind of like a similar in like we currently have a celebrity in the White House who has different agenda than not everybody else in this country.
I think that is so poignant, and I think I'm looking forward to having more conversations about that, because it's hard paralleling Lindbergh to Trump now because he doesn't have a high popularity rate, but there was a time where Trump probably was a lot more likable. But yeah, I think that these conversations that we'll be having, it's going to be crazy and scary to see how something 80 years ago in an era will still be parallel to what's going on today. So that was like super dope, Cody. Thank you for sharing
That
that.
was spot on.
Yeah.
Spot on. Can I
Thanks,
just
guys.
really quickly shout out everybody that's watching? We really just want you to know, especially in these times where you don't have to, well, you kind of you have to tune into something, but you have lots of choices. So we appreciate that you tune into us, and making us the ESPN of TV Talk means a great deal. We are literally so happy to be here. Obviously, we're committed. We're in our homes, and we could be doing anything, but we're here with you, and that is definitely on purpose. So thank you so much for tuning in. We do appreciate you guys. We could never do any of this without you.
Well said. Yeah. And as always, we'll be able for comments and conversations. Hit us up on social media. We'll be giving you guys all of that information. As always, subscribe. We need y'all. We love y'all. And we'll be with you guys.
Five thumbs. I was about to say five thumbs. Lord. Five fingers. Five fingers.
How many thumbs do you have, Kitty? That's one talented lady over there. 5 thumbs. You make a sad man really happy.
I know, right? I got a little too excited. 5 thumbs. 5 fingers. Thumbs up. Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
All right, and on that note too, we're gonna have some special segments for you guys next week. We're always gonna be coming with a new segment. We're gonna be with you guys on social media, and so we got a lot more in store for you next week. But had one more topic that I wanted to speak on for this episode with you guys. So closer to the end of the episode, Alvin, who now has been fired from the job, is now fully committed to hanging out with the bad influence friend. They go out on this venture to basically go to where Germans or Nazi happy or pro-Nazi people are, and they wait for like 2 drunk guys to come out and they like jump him, right? And there's something interesting about before he did that. Alvin said something like, and it was in the trailer. He said that he said basically, I'm tired of turning the other cheek. But this was their protest in a way, and some could evaluate that as this is a very cowardly action. How did you guys feel about just that scene and the actions that they decided to do?
I thought it was kind of disgusting.
I get it. Yeah, I get it. It reminded me of like the Bronx Tale. When the Italians are hanging out and then they're like beating up the black guys, or they'll do like the Molotov cocktail into the store. It just that for some reason that scene reminded me of that scene in that movie. It was definitely, I get why they were doing it. It was because it was basically for all the hurt that all the Jews were getting from the Nazis. I still don't think that was the right move. I don't think that is ever the right move. I don't think that solves anything. I think that just makes the fire bigger. However, I mean, I don't know, because thankfully I've never had to deal with any of that stuff. So, you know, it's hard for me to say they're wrong or they're right. It's just you're treading on fires here, right? Because it's like, okay, so if people weren't attacking Jews in the streets before, now they will be. So yeah, it was not a good call
for that. They opened the floodgates for that. Would you agree? Yeah, and I think that's the sad part about it. I get it, retaliation, even though in my mind, revenge is really stupid. You know, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. That's my thought process. But that's just me. And I get why people get angry and to feel like there has to be something being done. Like you said, I'm tired of turning the other cheek. I get that. Your family is under duress. Everyone's being, targeted, and they haven't done anything to you to feel like they should deserve this. But at the same time, when you do stuff like that is this lowbrow, you gotta expect that this is going to come back on you like tenfold. You know what I mean? Fighting them in Congress, or fighting them by protesting, or fighting them by going and, certain elected officials being put in place to combat whatever it is that you're going through. Or I don't know, there's just a more highbrow way that they could have taken, the high road and tried to minimize the tension between the two parties. But this is just basically saying like we're savages and we know you can get savage too, so bring it on. Like, okay, everybody knows you can fight. Like, everybody can fight, hopefully. You know what I mean?
Not everyone.
Well, put under the right circumstances, you're gonna come out swinging. I'd like to hope. But
Hopefully.
either way,
You be swinging, but you may not hit anything. I can swing a lot.
I guess all I'm saying is the will to fight
baby.
is always going to be there, right? Like the will to fight, the will to want to be involved in, standing up for your people or what you believe in is totally respectable. And I get that. I just think it's very lowbrow when you allow yourself to get into physical fights, because then, as I said, the floodgates are open. Like anything's possible now. Now you're going to come home and your whole family shot in the head because you fought this guy in the street last night. Is it worth it?
Yeah, 100%. Well said. So we're down to a couple minutes with this, and I wanted to get into predictions real quick. If you guys could go around, Cody and Kitty, go around real quick and show kind of, because that last scene kind of helped me with my prediction for the next episode, and it sounds like some of you guys are in the same direction. Just some quick predictions for what you think will happen in part 2.
Well, I'm not gonna front. I love that this content is so heavy. It's very lofty. It makes me think, which I love. I love being challenged, but I'm not gonna front and say I get the whole thing just yet. So my predictions might sound a little rudimentary or like sophomoric. I apologize. I think that the family dynamic is going to get tighter because they're going to have to be closer as a family in order to combat this big regime. And I see something happening with the mom. I'm not exactly sure what, but she obviously has dementia, right? Or Alzheimer's, full blown. We don't know yet. But the fact that she asked her daughter a question and then literally asked her daughter the same question 2 minutes later, she's suffering from something. So I want to see how that's going to play out and whether or not she's going to become a more integral part of the family or be distanced even more.
Yeah.
We kind of see like in previews or in the trailer, like the aunt, Winona Ryder, she starts like dating that rabbi, I guess, and it looks like she gets like kind of a higher society deal, and I just feel like that character development for her, she's gonna end up getting involved on the wrong side of things. I think that's actually going to be a split in the family dynamic. I think she's going to end up being a problem for her sister and the kids and her brother-in-law.
Awesome. Ricky, so give me a real quick prediction of what you think will happen in the next episode.
I think the sister's going to turn to become a nun. I think the wife and the husband are going to get a divorce. No, I'm kidding. You're like, what kind of predictions is he watching the same show? This in Handmaid's Tale. Predictions.
Real quick.
Yeah, the predictions for next week is that the husband's going to probably retake the job and they're going to move into the new neighborhood.
Ooh, I like that.
Nice.
Okay, my quick prediction is that last action will entice a huge racial war that will help Charles Lindbergh gain momentum on his presidential election. We'll see. But I told you guys, viewers, I'm with a smart crew. This is a smart, intelligent analysis of part 1. I think we're going to get a little bit deeper as we start to learn more and more about these characters. But before we sign out, I want you guys to let them know where they can engage with you on social media. Kitty, you mind kicking us off?
All right, my name is Kittie KaBoom, so you can find me on IG at KittiKaBoom, and on Twitter I'm Kitty Meow.
I'm Cody Epperson. I'm also on Instagram at Cody Ep, CODYYEPP.
I'm Ricky Vitucci, and you can find me on all social media platforms at Ricky Vitucci.
And I'm DeAnJiLo Friday. You can hit me up on Instagram at DeAnJiLo. Hit us up if you have any questions, comment, leave all those reviews. But we will see you guys next week. Deuces.
Thank you.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.